18 Wolverines invited to the NFL Combine, as we mentioned, which is ridiculous. It breaks LSU's previous record of 20 in 2020 of 16. And that was a hell of a draft class. Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, all those guys. In Jim Harbaugh's comment back in the last summer, saying that Michigan could break Georgia's, and he predicted it, I think, their record of 15 draft picks in 2022, coming off of that ridiculous championship season that we saw firsthand in the semifinal game. Jordan Davis and all those guys. But I'll run down the list here of the guys who got invited from Michigan. J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, Cornelius Johnson, Roman Wilson, A.J. Barner, Carson Barnhart, Ladarius Henderson, Trente Jones, Trevor Keegan, Drake Nugent, Zach Zinter, Jalen Harrell, Braden McGregor, Chris Jenkins, Michael Barrett, Junior Colson, Mikey Sainristil, and Josh Wallace. And when I do count up the guys who I consider to be locks to be drafted, I'm right at 15. That means
a guy. Ask you that, Clay. I was going to say, I'm going to put you on the spot. How many are going to get drafted? Do you think they're going to match at 15?
I think they're going to match it. I would, and if I think there's a better chance of them either not getting it or exceeding it, I would actually say exceeding it. I mean, think of the guys. The only guys I don't have as a lock on there, and I still think they could get picked, or Cornelius Johnson, Carson Barnhart, and Trente Jones. And I think Carson and Trente could easily be picked. I mean, and I think James Turner.
If there's a seventh round pick and Los Angeles Chargers are on the board, or the Baltimore Ravens, it wouldn't shock me.
Or the Seahawks.
Yeah, or the Seahawks. God, it's growing. It's growing. It's nice to have those guys to be able to reach out to,
It is, for sure. So and look, James Turner didn't get invited. He's a kicker. He could go late in the draft. Probably not. I would say he's not one of the specialists that was invited, but there are only 6 or 7, including both punters and kickers. So you see that each and every year. Now, doing the math, there are 321 players invited to the combine. There are 256 picks in this upcoming draft. So about 80% of the guys at the combine overall will get picked. Actually, probably less than that, because there will be some guys that weren't invited who get selected, like we just mentioned with James Turner. But your reaction just to seeing that, not a surprise, I guess, but I mean, to smash that record by 2, yeah. And really Michigan had always kind of been around 8, 9, guys, but to get 18 speaks to how deep and talented that team was last season.
I finally got a chance to sit down at my dad's house and my mom and dad's house and watch the Alabama game and watch the Washington game, and looking at that talent out there. First of all, Josh Wallace, who you mentioned, what a year and what a postseason for that kid. No doubt. I went back and saw play after play after play he made. Everybody thought he was going to get picked on, and every time maybe a ball went over his head, and it wasn't very often, everybody's like, oh, see, I told you it was going to be a weak link. He was not only not a weak link, he had an outstanding year as that second corner. And that just goes to show you, in the portal, it doesn't have to be that guy from Alabama or that 5-star. You can get a guy like Josh Wallace who can play like a 5-star and be every bit as important. So, but the other takeaway I had from it, Clay, was when you have rivals saying, well, they didn't have to go through an elite Georgia team or the best of the best Alabama team. There was no team out there like that. Well, Michigan was that team this year, right? Yeah. They were so deep and so talented at every position that you can lose an All-American and Zach Zinter and still win a national championship. And frankly, the run blocking got better, in my opinion. That's nothing to do with Zinter, obviously, but I think the way that these guys meshed a little bit better, if you look on the right side at Trente Jones and Carson Barnhart, they really started moving people off the ball and did a few different things that really made that offense, that running game click. So, but Michigan was that team. You look at a guy like J.J. McCarthy, who could be a top 10 pick now. Blake Corum is an elite college running back, right? And no, he didn't have the Heisman Trophy year that many thought he could, but you look at Colston Loveland, he's going to be a first-round pick, in my opinion, next year. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball, right? The defensive side of the ball is sick, that defensive line. So that's what I took from it. This team is the best team in Michigan football history, with all due respect to the 1901 point-a-minute team that a little bit before my time, I still haven't found film, but we'll compare and contrast at some other point.
Yeah, who would win head-to-head?
Head-to-head, I don't see. Don't put me on the spot like that, okay? What kind of helmets do they get? Did they get real helmets or like little leather ones, or do they even wear helmets? I don't know. See, that's not fair.
That's a good point. You can't compare eras, yeah.
Exactly.
But no, in next year, it wasn't just 18 guys. Next year, they could have 4. They have 4 guys who could be first-round picks
Yeah.
next year. Colston Loveland, Will Johnson, Mason Graham, and Kenneth Grant. And, so that adds to it. And, yeah, I mean, look, everyone that was saying, oh, Michigan's scared of Alabama based on the video when we were in the room, and I didn't think that at all. I actually didn't even know that was the reaction until we got in the car afterwards, which kind of proves us being there firsthand that it was not what we thought. Michigan's scared. They're going to get rolled over by Alabama. Those same people now are saying, oh, Alabama wasn't that good. They were the second most talented roster in college football history, according to the recruiting rankings and who they brought in through the transfer portal as well. So you can kind of do this revisionist history, if you want, if you're in the South and you're trying to do that and justify or cope with Michigan winning the national championship, but it's just not really accurate. And, it kind of makes it even sweeter, I think, that Michigan won because it has everybody. Their brains are broken, basically, at this point. But there was so much talent on that team. And I'm excited to watch these guys at the Combine, too. I think Anthony and I are going down for a couple days.
Nice.
And maybe I'll hop in on the bench as well, see if I can get a couple reps. But, it's going to be exciting to watch all these guys in the NFL because forever, as Jim Harbaugh said, they're simply known as national champions. They're going to have that walk that John Jansen walks around with and all the guys from 97 who are national champs forever. Terry Mills, every game in basketball, he gets introduced as the national champ, Terry Mills. So these are all national champs. So it's going to be fun to follow the rest of their careers.
It's a fun fraternity. And I was watching Harbaugh too, not only a national championship fraternity, as Harbaugh said when he was being interviewed, I think I don't know if it was before the Super Bowl or something like that, winning it. He goes, man, we did this. My lasting memory of JJ McCarthy walking through out of the tunnel, and he was going back towards the field after he went and got his phone or something like that. And he was talking to himself and he walked right past it. He goes, man, we just won the natty, and it's like, that is such an unbelievably small fraternity and such an unbelievable accomplishment that even guys like the Bosas, when they're being put on the spot, what about Michigan and the cheating? And goes, they earned that shit, so real recognize real, man. So, and those guys all understand that what Michigan accomplished out there was done on the football field.
What Bosa said that because Joey now plays for Jim. So.
Yeah, right. I don't remember. It was like at a press conference or something like that. And so that is interesting though. Yeah. Well, now I'll say this about the one Bosa. He's got a better chance of winning a title,
He does.
Because Jim Harbaugh is going to win in LA. It's funny that people are like, oh, he's got the salary cap. That doesn't matter, man. This guy is a winner and he knows how to assemble a staff. He knows how to assemble a team and he knows how to win. He is frankly the best coach probably of his era. If you look, everybody's going to say Nick Saban. If Jim Harbaugh had the resources at Alabama, he would have been the same type of coach. But how many coaches have gone out and done it at the NFL level and the collegiate level? It's like 2 or 3. And really only one that's done it without, I mean, this guy, he's a legend. As everybody says, he's just a flat out legend.
He jumped right out of playing to coaching and basically immediately after 2 years becomes a head coach and then wins everywhere. Pretty unheard of. Obviously had not advantage. I mean, it was an advantage, but growing up around the game with his dad and everything, but I mean, just pretty incredible. I'm sure we'll talk about this before the draft. We have a couple months, but if there's one guy on the list that Jim Harbaugh could pick, who do you think would be the perfect fit?
Mikey Sainristil.
Yeah.
Because he's
going to take him if he's there in the 3rd or 4th.
I would take him in a heartbeat. And, I get it. Everybody talks about measurables and everything like that. But the Detroit Lions started becoming really, really good when they didn't just rely on that. And they relied on culture and guys that might be in the neighborhood, but just had that will to win, like an Aiden Hutchinson, right? How many people were saying that they should have taken, what's his name, that went to the Giants over Aiden Hutchinson,
Thibodeau,
Yeah, Thibodeau. Yeah, see, and I'm sure he's going to be a good player, but guys that win titles are guys that are great football players and great teammates. Mikey Sainristil is a Michigan legend. No, he's not Charles Woodson, but he is in that next tier of guys that makes a position switch and was so good. And he's a 3-time Big Ten champ and a national champion. Love that guy. Love everything that he represent. He represented that program so well. His parents should be very proud of him.
No doubt. He is a legend many times over at this point. I'll go with another legend. I think Blake Corum. It sounds like Austin Eckler is going to leave in free agency. I think he'd be a perfect fit. I actually don't buy that he's not going to be a good NFL running back. I think or he's probably better college than he was NFL, but I think he's going to be really good, and I think Blake Corum would be a guy that Jim Harbaugh wants. And Blake said in an interview he would love to play there, so that would be kind of fun to watch.